We will be starting the recording when we start the next slide. The next presenter, Marcia, will be coming on to talk about pilot agencies.
Thanks, Ross. Yes, I did start the recording. So we wanted to make sure that we gave a little shout out for our pilot agencies. So we had Beltrami, Clay, and Nobles, who are piloting currently still with us. So as you all know by now, statewide release was delayed so that we could deploy a third pilot for our pilot agencies in order to fix a couple of issues that we had found after we deployed the second pilot earlier this month. So we wanted to make sure things were all working well before we went statewide. So we delayed that until next week will be the statewide release. And that will be at 6 p.m. next Wednesday, the 31st. So we still want to give a big thanks for the help from our pilot agencies this release. They did an excellent job, really made a positive difference in the product that's going out statewide next week. SSIS is a really complex system, and as much as we test every tiny change before we even go to pilot, it's really impossible to fully know what impact some changes have without having agencies pilot. So this pilot, our pilot agencies were able to find and report issues, allowing us to add that additional pilot release in order to ensure that we fix those issues before we went statewide. We don't often add a third pilot release during our pilot month. So don't let that scare you from piloting, but really having that opportunity allowed us to ensure a better final product for this release. So we really want to give a really big thank you to our partners at Beltrami, Clay, and Nobles this release. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna give this over to Alex for a couple announcements.
Hi there, this is Alex Mentis, SSIS manager. I just wanted to share that there was good news from the legislature this year. We were able to get fully funded to contract with some external help to review SSIS to determine where data entry requirements can be removed or streamlined. For example, improvements in the out-of-home placement plan. We're also looking for recommendations for modernization of the application. And then it's just some assessment of the current performance and stability problems. So that was fully funded. We received what we asked for, so we're certain to get a thorough review. We're pretty happy about that. We also received significant funding to hire new subject matter experts to help with various things from data integrity, think AFCAR's buddies from years ago, also some project management for modernization activities, and then additional help desk support. So this has been a great year for SSIS. And that is all thanks to you all. The local agencies were, Pine County, Scott County in particular, and you all raised your voices and you were heard, and we are grateful to have this partnership with you. It is thanks to the local agencies that this legislation went through. So thank you to everybody. We are absolutely committed to making positive changes in this application, and we hope for continued good partnership with everybody. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll kick it back to Marcia.
Thanks. And actually, we're gonna give it over to Paula. We have a special guest today. So Paula, I'll let you introduce yourself and kick this off. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Paula Katzenmeyer. I am a Title IV policy trainer for Southwest Minnesota and West Central Minnesota. And I'm happy to be here this morning to talk foster care changes. So what you'll see up on the screen is a new submit reason. So the new submit reason is initial referral during protective hold. This new submission reason allows foster care referrals to Maxis, from SSIS to Maxis, when the placement authority is protective hold. It was specifically added so that when there is only a police or protective hold, a submission to Maxis can be sent to initiate the approval of automatic MA for the child who is in foster care for the month that the police hold or protective hold has occurred. So as you probably should all already know, an application is not required for children in foster care. Effective January 1st, 2021, all children in foster care are automatically eligible for MA without an application and without financial eligibility requirements. So when using the new submit reason, a Title IV redetermination will not be completed. The child is only eligible for MA for the month of the police hold. If the child remains in foster care under the legal responsibility of the social service agency, either through a voluntary placement agreement or through a court order, at that point, an additional submission would be needed to communicate the subsequent placement authority as either BPA or court ordered, and the additional placement data so that the application process can be started for Title IV purposes. Also, if a worker is doing a submission from Maxis to, or excuse me, from SSIS to Maxis after there's already been a voluntary placement agreement signed or a court order entered into SSIS, in that situation, then we would just use the usual submit reason initial referral so that all of that placement information can be included in the initial referral to report and communicate that that child has entered foster care. There will be an edit that will exist if any other authority is entered and you try to use the new submit reason initial referral protective hold. And that edit says submit reason initial referral during protective hold is only allowed when it is the only continuous placement authority recorded. So another submit reason to continue. That is what I have, because it's just a kind of a short and sweet addition so that we can get those children who are on a police protective hold on MA for that time period that they are in a foster care setting. Are there any questions? And I suppose I should look in the chat.
It sounds like it got a little bit choppy. I heard you okay, but it sounds like some were having a little bit more trouble. Paula, does anyone have any questions? Was there any part of it that you didn't hear that you want Paula to reiterate?
If you want to put a question in the chat, if there's something specific.
It looks like we do have a hand up, so I'm going to unmute Janice and see if she can talk. You want to try, Janice? Ooh, it looks like her hand went down. Maybe it was a mistake. All right, I think we can move on. Paula, did you want to let them know how to contact or who to contact if there are any questions?
Sure. So I'm not seeing any questions now. If you have any questions about the new submit reason, you can reach out to your regional Title IV trainer. If you're not sure who that is, feel free to reach out to me as well, Paula Katzenmeyer, and be sure to answer any questions that you have.
Hey, Paula, one question did just come across. So it says, what was the effective date where all children are eligible for MA without an application again?
That is January 1st, 2021. Thanks, so that Teresa. Goes back, back a ways. So, it's all being rolled out right now, very soon into Maxis, the automated functionality for that. But it has, the policy itself went into effect January 1st, 2021.
Thanks, Paula. Any other questions for Paula?
One other thing about that, if you're looking for that information, it's actually bulletin 21. Oh, just slipped my mind. 2101. No, sorry. I can send that out if you have that. Just shoot me an email if you have that question.
All right. Are you ready for me to take over, Paula?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
you.
We appreciate you coming. All right, so we are going to move on to security enhancements for this release. So to increase security per best practice and needed as we move towards the Azure environment, going forward, agencies should avoid using special characters within SSIS user IDs. So special characters should not be used in the SSIS user ID. We're talking about within the SSIS profile when you're setting up the SSIS user ID. So administrators who are creating those user profiles within SSIS administration, please be sure to follow the rules when creating or editing user profiles on both the SSIS admin user screen and the Active Directory credentials screen. So you see both here on the screen. So the characters that you can use are A through Z, 0 through 9, the hyphen, period, and underscore would be the only special characters, right? So this change is really in prep for if or when we make a move to Azure. At this time, agency workers can still use a user ID if it's already been created with other special characters. However, when an agency starts a pilot for Azure, or should SSIS move completely to the Azure platform, if there are special characters in any of those user IDs, those are going to be converted to allowable characters. So this will happen as part of the Azure team setting up the agency to use Azure. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Azure. System administrators do not currently need to make any changes to existing user IDs. So just want to make that clear. So we're not asking you to make a change currently. It's really going forward, really to save time later, right, with having to make changes. All right. If you want to move on to the next one, Ross. So I just also put a little reminder here for our user IDs and passwords. As a reminder for users who are resetting like their passwords, passwords must have at least 8 characters, at least 1 lowercase and 1 uppercase, at least 1 number or digit, right? And at least 1 of the shown characters. So no other special characters may be included. So the ones that are allowed are hashtag, +sign, $, the ampersand, $, underscore, hyphen, the @sign, exclamation mark, and question mark. So obviously there are other special characters on your keyboard. Those ones do not work or they cause issues. So you want to make sure that when you're resetting passwords, you're making sure that you're sticking to these particular characters. All right, you can go to the next one, please. So also in this release, there are some updated documents. APS initial disposition letter was updated. It had the wording updated as well as an updated fraud link within it in the resources section. The APS notice of assessment not completed has updated wording. The adoption placement agreement has some minor revisions. It's really to the heading and new construction date in the footer. And then the adoption placement decision summary has some minor revisions on the header and to the new construction date in the footer. So for those 2 APS docs, you want to remember that those are RTF document templates. And so when there's changes to those, if you have headers on those, you want to make sure that you go back into the RTF document template header screen, which is under tools, and make sure that you have your header that you want attached to that checked so that it shows up when workers are using that template and printing that out. Next slide, please. So we have some changes. One of the changes here is going to be on the race screen. So a new race, which the option is going to be it's going to say unable to determine abandoned child has been added within the race drop-down options. And this option was added in response to AFCARS 2020. So we talked about that. I think last month is when we had our AFCARS 101. So we talked about additional AFCARS related things coming down the pike. This is one of those. So this option should only be used when the child has been abandoned by both parents and no race info is no race information is available, and the child is too young to self-identify. So there is help text for the race screen that has been created, but it wasn't able to be fit into this release. So that's coming. So I want to make sure that I explain a little bit. And I gave some examples on the screen here. So what we're looking for is some of the examples are, if you have a young child who's, let's say, less than a year old, has been abandoned by both parents, and we have no race information available, the child's race should be indicated as unable to determine abandoned child. Now, if you have a child who was abandoned when they were young, but they're now old enough to self-identify, the agency should allow the child to self-identify their race information, right? So they can put it, unknown, or they can put whatever the child identifies as. If a child was removed, for example, let's say from a grandmother who only knew the race of the mother, was Caucasian, didn't know who the father was, and so that was unknown, we would enter Caucasian and unknown for race entries for the child. Do not enter unable to determine abandoned child, since one of the parents' race information is known. So there will be help text coming out that gives these examples, as well as some more information, just kind of a reminder of when to use, unknown, declined, those types of things. So we will have some additional help text coming. Any questions on that, on entering race information? Again, this was added because AFCARS 2020 is looking for this specific information when a child has no race information due to being abandoned by both parents. All right, let's move on. So we also have an update really to our continuous placement screen. So it doesn't look like an update on the screen, but we've updated some of the rules for the screen. So the couple of questions at the bottom of the continuous placement screen, which you can see in red here. So the questions are, does the child have siblings in the same adoptive or kinship home? And the number of siblings in adoptive or kinship home. So those were added in a recent release, but were intended to only be answered when the reason discharged was adoption finalized or transfer of permanent legal and physical custody to a relative. So these are now only active and only will be required on the screen when the end reason for the continuous placement has been entered as adoption finalized or TPLPC. So the screen prompts will ask workers to complete these additional questions when those closed reasons line up. So these questions were previously added in response to AFCARS 2020 new data element requirements as well. So you're seeing a few of those for this release. And next slide, please. Also for the children's mental health screen, there is a new option under the screening. And so children's mental health screening, the new option is status of exempt receiving children's mental health case management. So we had added some things not too long ago, I think maybe 1 or 2 releases ago, when we updated some of these exemption reasons. And so this was just one more addition to that. And in relation to that, we're going to go to the next slide. We have some changes coming. So in the CMH screening totals by status, so this is one of your general reports that you can run. So this general report was modified so that we have the new element, the new status, I'm sorry, but also to correct the unduplicated number of children, so that it should show as an absolute count of the unique children. And the new exemption, of course, has been added. So the number of records, excuse me, losing my voice. So the number of records column is going to give a count of the total of CMH screenings and exemptions for the time period and department, unit, or worker that you had chosen within the setup. So in this example that you see on the screen, my scope was really, there was going to be one child, right? One child, but that one child had 2 exemptions and 1 screening completed. So you see for the first column, it reflects 3, the total number of screenings and exemptions, and the second reflects 1, the total number of unique children. Next slide. Another CMH screening report. This is the CMH screening exception report, and this is a banded report. So remember what banded means is this is a PDF type report, so it's not a grid report that you can move things around with. It's represented by the black and white icon within the general reports tree view. So this general report now has an option within the setup where it asks if you want to check the box for include screening detail. So if that box is checked, an additional header row and those details will appear in the header, and items pertaining to that row will be shown to include detailed data about the screening tool used, the score, references to the diagnostic services. If these extra details are not needed, it will continue to be easiest to view this particular report without the extra details added. So if you see at the top here, I have it highlighted where it's the screening details is set to yes. So down in the actual report where you see the red highlight, it shows there's a second row to the header row. And then down at the bottom under that particular row, you can see there is a CMH screening tool. It says PSC 17 item. So that's pertaining to that second header row. So really one row now has 2 rows included with that detail. If you want to go to the next one there, perfect. So this is the same exact CMH screening exception report. However, in this instance, I just did not check the screening details. So for this one, it's much easier to read. You don't have that second header row. You don't have that additional detail. So really, unless you really need that detail, if you're looking for that particular detail, I would still suggest leaving that off because it's going to be easier for your staff to read it. So unless you need it. So just wanted to point those out. Next slide. So we also have another AFCARS related new question, and this is on the expectant and parenting youth screen. So their new question is, in the last 6 months, while the youth was in placement, did the youth and any of his or her children live together for 1 day or more? So this was added and it will be required upon save of this screen. So help text has also been added for this question, and the main help text header was also updated. So remember, anytime you're in SSIS and you're seeing those blue text hyperlinks, if you click on that, you're going to get help text to give a little bit more information. So this screen is required to be completed for any child in placement who is 10 years or older, but it really should also be completed for any child that may be expectant or parenting, even if they're under 10 years old. So the system's going to make sure we're going to send out the alerts and reminders indicating, hey, yeah, you have somebody that needs this if you don't have it. However, if you know you have a child under 10 who is expectant or parenting, be sure to also complete this screen. This question was also added in response to the AFCARS 2020 new data requirements. So this is data that is being pulled for that AFCARS each reporting period. Next screen. We wanted to point out a general report defect that came up. And so there was a general report related defect. And I want to thank Pine County for bringing this to our attention. So always good with those details and bringing these things up. So that was really helpful. The open placements and with unlicensed provider. So open placements with unlicensed provider report has a defect currently. The report wasn't updated to reflect that newer placement setting type of foster family home kin. And so what that means is it currently is not including unlicensed providers with placements of that particular setting type. So we are still catching those. You're still going to catch those with the proofing message 1190. That still is going to let you know in proofing messages that somebody's missing a license on a particular payment. So the report defect is slated to be fixed in a future release, but I just wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. Now I'm going to kick it over to Sam for some fiscal updates for this release.
Thanks, Marcia. This is Sam Breidenbach. I work with SSIS Business Operations as a fiscal subject matter expert, and I'll be going over a few of the changes we have with this release for fiscal things. So the first slide here, we have 2 new proofing messages that were added to the Child Foster Care Report for Supervised Independent Living Settings, or SILS. They are message numbers 1296 and 1298 to indicate when the youth's age is not allowable for this certified setting type. These proofing messages were added preemptively. There are not yet any facilities certified and Title 4E approved to provide SILS services in the state of Minnesota. And go to the next slide. And we have a couple of fixes with the Child Foster Care Report. A partial fix has been implemented for the Child Foster Care Report with out-of-state facilities. So manually entered OSF license numbers were not being recognized by the report logic, since it was previously checking only for a Lindex record. This affected all proofing messages that looked for the facility certification date. There will be more to come with this on a future release. We had a second fix that was to consistently get the correct facility certification date from the Title 4E group provider records. This did not affect all databases, and it was resolved with the query being restructured. Can go to the next slide. We have some big updates with healthcare claiming interactive video with this release. Interactive video is now claimable for clients of all ages for all TCM claim categories, including CWTCM, with exceptions that interactive video cannot be substituted for a face-to-face contact when a client is in placement or when claiming from a child protection work group. When using Activity 15, CWTCM eligible contact 60 plus miles from the county border to bill for a telephone claim, select the method as phone even if it was provided as ITV. SSIS is not equipped at this time to distinguish between ITV contacts as equivalent to face-to-face versus billing as a phone contact for this specific activity. And also of note, an ITV provider assurance statement must be on file with MHCP in order to bill medical assistance for ITV claims. Can go to the next slide. With ITV, we have the new contact methods available of interactive video with this release, and there will be 2 options available. One is interactive video in client's home, and the second is interactive video not in client's home. The method selected will code the claim in MIS with the originating site as either 02 or 10, depending on the client's location. Place of service 10 indicates the client was in their home at the time of receiving the ITV contact. Place of service 02 indicates the client was not in their home when receiving the ITV contact. Next slide. And the distance site on the claim will be the location of the case manager when providing the ITV contact. This will route to the MMIS claim as the distance site of service from the location that is selected on the time record. For example, if field home is selected as the location on the SSIS time record, the place of service on the MMIS claim will be 12. If office is selected, the distance site place of service on the MMIS claim will be 11. And then related to ITV, proofing messages were added for the unallowable exceptions that are related to this. So for clients in placement, ITV is not claimable as a face-to-face for any TCM claim categories. For CWTCM, ITV is not claimable as a face-to-face contact when the time record is entered from a child protection work group. SSIS has adopted the term interactive video to replace what had been introduced in release 19.4 as the telehealth contact method. Okay, and then we did have some notes with the QRTP Family and Permanency Team Meeting activity. This is only claimable when used in combination with the contact method face-to-face. Phone and ITV are not claimable methods for this activity. It is important to document in all TCM billable contacts the case management service that was provided to the client and their family. This is especially true with the QRTP Family and Permanency Team Meeting activity because foster care and placement related activities are excluded services from TCM. Allowable TCM services include monitoring and coordination, assessment, planning, and referral and linkage. And we did add a COVID-19 subservice code that was implemented statewide, number 87. This was for use during the COVID-19 federal public health emergency. This subservice code was entered for statewide use and cannot be edited by agency staff and SSIS admin. Subservice code 87 for COVID-19 related entries will no longer be available for use on time records or payments after 5/11/2023. This was not release dependent work, so the end date has already been deployed to production, and this coincides with the end date for the federal public health emergency. And that was all I have, so I will kick it back to Ross to close us out.
Thanks, Sam. Before I go too much further, were there any questions that anybody has for Sam or Marcia?
There is a question in the chat from Mary, just to verify, will telehealth option be removed with this release?
And it was not removed, Mary, but if you select telehealth on a time record, it will route to interactive video not in client's home as the method. So that was updated to reflect that new contact method of interactive video not in client's home, and a second one was added for interactive video in client's home. Were there any other questions?
At this time, there's none in the chat.
All righty then. So as always, you have your SSIS resources. The release documents are currently posted specific to the pilot, but the final statewide documents will be uploaded and posted prior to the statewide release on 5/31. Always feel free to visit the SSIS resource page for any trainings or any other information listed here. Your 23.2 release information, what's new, release notes, known defects, your SSIS worker documentation, and of course, the SSIS fiscal documentation as well.
Ross, we did just get a question, so I'm going to read it.
Okay.
It says, recently a child placed in out-of-state facility that does not have a host contract that does not have a host contract. SSIS helped us advised us to manually enter the license as OSF so that we could choose the license in SSIS. However, it seems to be needing a numerical number after the OSF. The out-of-state facilities that do have host contracts, we noticed that there's a numerical number after the OSF. Do we just make a number up, or what is the process?
This is Sam, I can answer that. So yeah,
Thanks,
when
Sam.
you enter those, you would enter OSF and then the license number. So if it's an out-of-state facility, the license number from that other state is typically what you would enter. If you do just enter OSF, that will allow it to pull through on the child foster care report. So just that alone, that lets it recognize that that should be pulling in a claim on the child foster care report for an out-of-state facility. But the process is to enter OSF with the license number immediately after.
Okay, other resources available. The information related to this release will be available if you want to call the SSIS help desk or email them. To review previous SSIS coffee talks or release webinar recordings and reference materials, visit the Minnesota Child Welfare Academy SSIS training site. And the link is here on this page. And save the date. The next June coffee talk opportunities are listed. Registration information will be coming soon. And our very exciting mentor of the month is Jessica Fisherman from Leech Lake. This month, we would like to celebrate Jessica from Leech Lake as May's Mentor of the Month. Jessica was instrumental in helping to coordinate a great on-site visit this past month at Leech Lake Tribal Agency. With her help, the SSIS Business Operations SMEs were able to present for Leech Lake Agency staff on multiple topics their staff had questions about, as well as held lab hours in which their staff were able to utilize the DHS SSIS SMEs present for their individual SSIS related questions. It was a great visit all around. We appreciate you, Jessica. Thank you, and your staff. If your agency is interested in setting up an individual agency session with our SSIS staff in person or virtually, please contact our SSIS help desk. And that'll do it for this month's release presentation. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time. Stay golden, Minnesota. Radio Ross out.